Imagine a world where the fate of the universe rests on the shoulders of one young man, a planet of deserts, giant sandworms, political intrigue, and battles that will change everything. Sounds like a must watch, right? But what if I told you Dune Part 2 takes that to the next level? The question is, can this film live up to the monumental expectations set by its predecessor? Today, we dive deep into Dune Part 2, the cinematic experience that has fans around the world on the edge of their seats. Let's talk about why you should be ready for this film and why it's one of the most anticipated releases in recent history. Directed by Denis Villeneuve, the visionary behind the Blade Runner 2049 and the first Dune adaptation, Dune Part 2 continues the epic saga that began with 2021's Dune. Denis Villeneuve is no stranger to bringing complex scientific fiction stories to life with stunning visuals, intricate storytelling, and meticulous approach to world building. Before we go further, let's not forget the success of the first Dune. It took home 6 Academy Awards and was widely praised for its groundbreaking cinematography, sound design, and visual effects. Villeneuve's direction turned Frank Herbert's dense novel into a visual masterpiece, and Dune Part 2 has some very big shoes to fill. And if early buzz is anything to go by, Dune Part 2 might just take that next step and win even more accolades. Now, the question is, why should you watch Dune Part 2? Well, first off, if you loved the first movie, you already know that Villeneuve's adaptation is a rich, immersive experience. But here's the thing, Dune Part 2 ramps up the action, deepens the emotional stakes, and explores some of the most thrilling and heartbreaking parts of Frank Herbert's universe. As Paul Atreides grapples with his destiny, we see him step into his role as a leader of the Fremen, the desert warriors of Arrakis. He faces political turmoil, moral dilemmas, and a world on the brink of chaos. The stakes are higher than ever before, and the result is a story about power, revenge, and survival in the most unforgiving environment imaginable. What makes Dune Part 2 especially thrilling is that it expands on everything we saw in the first film. We get to dive deeper into the Fremen culture, explore Paul's rise to power, and witness some of the most breathtaking action sequences you've ever seen on a screen. From the vast desert landscapes to the intricate political maneuvering, every frame feels larger than life. Plus, let's talk about those sandworms. Yes, they're back, and bigger and more intense than before. Denis Villeneuve has created a world so vivid that it almost feels like you're an Arrakis yourself. The visuals in Dune Part 2 are truly a feast for the eyes. The desert planet comes to life with incredible cinematography, and the scale of the battles is jaw-dropping. But it's not just about the epic scale. There's a deliberate pacing, a careful attention to detail that gives the film a sense of realism that grounds this worldly story. Then there's the sound. Dune Part 2 brings back the haunting score by Hans Zimmer, whose music in the first film became iconic. Expect the same powerful orchestral score with the added intensity of a story that's building to its explosive climax. But what really makes Dune so special? It's the themes. At its core, Dune is about the struggle for control, control over the power, control over the future. It's about destiny versus free will and the weight of the choices we make. Paul, who was a hero, must now confront the consequences of his own actions, knowing that the universe itself hinges on his decision. This isn't just a film about epic battles, it's a meditation on leadership, the cost of power, and the human condition in the face of monumental change. Let's not forget the action. While the first film sets the stage, Dune Part 2 brings the hits. Expect intense battles, high stakes political drama, and moments of pure tension. The stakes are higher than ever before, and each decision could change the fate of the entire galaxy. There are moments that will leave you holding your breath, and scenes that will keep you glued to the screen, unable to look away. Let's be real here. Dune has a massive, passionate fandom, and Dune Part 2 is poised to expand that fanbase even further. With the success of the first movie and the growing anticipation surrounding the sequel, this film is going to be a cultural touchstone. It's not just a movie, it's a movement, a saga that will define the future of scientific fiction for years to come. So, whether you're on a long-time Dune fan, a newcomer to the series, or just someone who loves a good, visually stunning, action-packed drama, Dune Part 2 is a must-watch. With its stellar cast, breathtaking visuals, and thought-provoking themes, this movie is shaping up to be one of the biggest cinematic events of the year. If you're ready to immerse yourself in a world of epic storytelling, unforgettable characters, and jaw-dropping spectacle, then mark your calendars. Dune Part 2 is not just a movie, it's an experience you can't afford to miss. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. You won't miss any updates as we dive deeper into the world of Dune. And tell me in the comments, what are you most excited to see in Dune Part 2?